here is Drew Bunting,
Hey.
and behind the scene is Ruby, the semi-talking human cat hybrid, whatever we've got going on over there. So the Vikings were expected to kind of have an easy time here in the opener, throwback jersey day, honoring Bud Grant Day, and instead they went out and soiled themselves in front of everybody, falling to the Buccaneers by a final score of 20-17. Ted, as you can see there from the background, is live at beautiful and scenic U.S. Bank Stadium. Ted, what's the mood over there, big dog?
Yeah, okay, I heard about half of what you said. So the stadium's great. The game sucked. They had a lot of great tributes to Bud Grant throughout the day. Why am I a fan of this goddamn team? Why?
I think that's a question we have all asked ourselves every day for years, Ted, and we've never gotten a good answer one way or another. Drew, your early impressions of that god awful thing we just saw.
Oh,
Really?
There's South Spice, everybody.
There's South Spice.
Hey.
What's your thoughts on today's game?
Really sucked. I never would have expected the offense to play that piss poor, 2 3-and-outs to end the game. Are you kidding me?
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, terrible. Sorry to say.
I will piggyback off what Sal Spice just mentioned. Hello, Sal Spice. The Vikings, just an absolute horrible loss today. That's a game they got to win. Now they got to find a game on the schedule, Chris Gates, that they're supposed to lose. Now they have to win.
Absolutely,
If
because
you lose the game, and we're going into Philly.
yeah, we
at 0-1.
Yeah, we mentioned this before the show started, but Vikings had a short turnaround of this one. They got to get ready to go play Thursday night at the home of the defending NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think anybody was anticipating them winning that game, so there's a very good chance they're going to be looking at 0-2 going into their game against the Chargers in Week 3.
You know what, Chris Gates? Watch a lot of football through the years. Everybody in the NFL is good.
Yeah.
If you make a bunch of bad, horrible mistakes, the other team's going to win. The Vikings are a better football team than Tampa Bay. They probably win 9 out of 10 times they play. But when you make that many miscues, it's different in college football when you're playing Bologna Tech or Chlamydia A&M that doesn't have good talent on the field. You can make mistakes and still win. College football is completely different. But in the NFL, the Vikings made too many mistakes today, and they lost the game. They beat themselves. But, when you line up for a field goal, Tampa lines up for that field goal, and Ward is offsides. Not jumping offsides, Chris. Lined up offsides. They get a new set of downs. They score a touchdown, and he comes to the sideline, and KOC's like, not mad at it. I probably would have decked him. I mean,
yeah, I was pretty annoyed by it. I mean,
terrible.
That's a fundamental thing. I mean, it's one thing to jump offside, is another thing to you can look, you can see where the ball is. Do not line up ahead of the football. That's bad. That's illegal. They don't.
So they gave up. They gave up 4 points right there, which is probably the difference in the game. This would have been a good game because I wanted to gloat about the defense. I thought the defense played really well. We got the defense coming back and making some big plays, although the second half they gave up a long drive and, we lost the game. But that offense, that's KOC's fault. That play calling was piss poor. Sal Spice was right. The offense, what is with these ugly 3-and-outs? Just hideous plays. 2-yard pass, run up the middle for 1 yard, then throw it out of bounds and punt. They shouldn't have those. The Vikings offense, they shouldn't have 3-and-outs. Maybe one a game.
Could we outlaw tight end screens?
Absolutely dreadful.
Yeah.
And horrible. And then
I don't know how many passes TJ Hawkinson caught today that lost yardage. I can think of at least 2. A tight end should never lose yardage on a reception. I'm sorry. That's just not a thing.
They keep doing it. And the offensive line is still a mess. KOC has a lot to answer for this, Ted.
Yeah.
You can't lose this game. You got to win this game. And they came out and they just.
If I'm stepping on you, I apologize. I'm having a hard time hearing you guys. But, yeah. O'Connell, we were all kind of looking around wondering what was going on with the play call. And it was questionable all day. the tight end screens, utilizing C.J. Ham as early as they did when you have a guy like Jordan Addison on the field. Drew, I heard you talk about the defense. One of the things I was concerned about entering the season, and maybe I saw it from a different angle than you guys did watching it on TV, but it seemed like the defensive line played a lot better than we thought they would.
I think so. I think they did. I mean, it's not like the Bucs were marching up and down the field for most of the afternoon. I think before their scoring drive at the end of the first half, I think they had like 5 or 6 3-and-outs or something like that. The defense was flying around out there. It's not Ed Donatell's scheme anymore. That's for damn sure. But at the end of the first half, they gave up that long drive, and the Vikings tried to answer.
I was just frustrated pretty much the whole day. I was really happy with the way the defense played for 75.
And Ted's gone again.
And we lost Ted. Ted's exactly right. The defense played well enough to win.
They did.
This is on the offense. Tampa Bay had 234 yards, Chris Gates, of offense. 234 yards in today's game is not a lot of yards. No. The Vikings had 135 more total yards than the Buccaneers. The defense, this isn't on the defense. This is all on the offense. And why, and I harp on it all the time, why aren't we more aggressive? Can you tell me why we're not more aggressive on offense?
I honestly have no idea. I mean, we still gained almost 400 yards despite the issues on offense, but I don't understand. You guys talked about the tight end screens. Justin Jefferson went into halftime of this game with 138 receiving yards, and he finished with 150. He had 12 yards in the set. You can't let that guy have 12 yards in a half of football. That's awful. And the key number for the Buccaneers, I don't believe they turned the football over, whereas we did.
No, they didn't.
3 times, twice in Buccaneers territory, and once literally right on the goal line. I still don't know how the hell KJ Osborne didn't catch that football. It was literally right in his hands, and all of a sudden the Buccaneers are running the other way with it. I don't understand. I
mean, I know teams make mistakes, Chris, but good teams that are supposed to win find a way to win a game like this. The Vikings squandered all their opportunities. They did. They squandered them right away. They had a bunch of dumb penalties, and that lining up offsides. I think Jay Ward did that. But you got to find a way to overcome that and win it. And they just have some drives where they look like Tampa Bay before they had that 10-10 scoring drive. We got the ball. I think we had a 2-yard pass to Hawkinson and a run up the middle for -2 and then an incomplete pass. And I'm thinking, why? They have some awful drives, some terrible drives.
Let me go find the drive you're talking about here. I've got the playlist up here. Let me see if I can find where the.
I think it was the drive right before Tampa had their drive for 10-10.
Yeah. So, with about 5 minutes left, they punt it to the Vikings. Vikings take over at the 14-yard line. Let's see. Chandler run for 1 yard. Cousins pass to Hawkinson for 2 yards. And then that was the play where on 3rd down, Cousins hit Osborne for 6 yards, and it looked like he was right at the sticks, but they decided that it was just short, and it was just that matter of a few inches that they said the Vikings were short. You can't go for it on your own 23-yard line at that point, so you punt it away.
It shouldn't come down to a matter of inches on 3rd down. I mean, come on, man. Shouldn't. I'm not saying you got to score on every drive. My thing, here's always been my my numbers for drives. Average, you get 12 drives. You have to score on 6 of them. And out of those 6, if you get 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals, you're going to win most of the time. Now, I don't know how many drives we had today and how many we scored on. I haven't looked at that information yet. But the Vikings have some drives that just make me scratch my head. And you know what? You mentioned the 12 yards by Jefferson in the second half. You know what, Chris? Those catches he made in the first half, he's wide open.
He sure is.
Why do we not just continue to grind people on what beats them? You know what? This is a disgrace to Bud Grant Day, because Bud Grant wouldn't be doing this.
I mean, absolutely not. Couldn't.
It's not like he was catching these balls on the sidelines with defenders on him. They couldn't stop him, and yet we went away from it, and I don't get it.
No, I mean, there's nobody that can cover that guy one-on-one. And if he's getting doubled or however many guys they have on him, and I didn't obviously see all the coverages that the Buccaneers were running or anything like that, but other guys have to take advantage of that. And by taking advantage of that, we don't mean running stupid 2-yard screen passes to the freaking tight end, for crying out loud. I mean, get people open. I mean, we saw Jordan Addison. His touchdown pass, there was nobody near that guy. He just blew past a bunch of dudes and found himself in the end zone.
And from that drive on, you need to attack.
No,
you need to keep attacking them until they stop it.
And that's why they drafted Jordan Addison as a guy who could do that and take some of the heat off of Jefferson. And he wound up with, let me see here. Let me pull my little statistical thing up here again. He wound up with 4 catches for 61 yards, and 39 of them came on that touchdown catch. So the Buccaneers defense is not like the 85 Bears or anything like that. They're not a great defense. This is a team that the Vikings should have beaten. And because they urinated all over themselves on however many different possessions it was, we're talking about a 20-17 loss.
And a lot of it is on the coaching staff. Look at, I'm going to explain to you what, I don't explain to you, you know football. This is what Tampa Bay did offensively and defensively. In defensively, they were stacking up the middle with the front 7, with David and White and all those guys, because they knew the Vikings throw 1-yard passes. When the Vikings opened it up on that one drive where Addison got the touchdown, and later on when they were just throwing it all over the field, that caused Tampa Bay to draw back. That's the game plan they should have went with. But they continued to do the short yardage thing up the middle. What Tampa did on offense, you notice at the beginning of this game in the first half, Baker Mayfield was taking 7-step drops, and he was getting in trouble with it. He was getting frustrated. He was getting in trouble because we were putting the pressure on him because he had the 7-step drop. He changed that in the second half. I don't think he had one. He might have had 1 7-step. He was dropping back 3 steps and throwing that square out to Lee Evans, or whatever his name is, Evans.
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans. And he was doing it with all the wide receivers. And they adjusted their offense perfectly to what the Vikings were doing. Perfectly. And he got in a groove, and Mayfield's no slouch if you let him get in a rhythm. You let him get in a rhythm, he's going to hurt you. But they changed their outlook on the 7-step drop to the Minnesota should have sucked up those corners and found a way to not let him have such an easy time with the and I don't want to take away from the defense. Defense played well enough to win. Defense played great. Defense stopped them on a bunch of 3rd and outs, and then the offense came out and jerked off and lost the game for them. The offense sucked today. How do you suck with all those weapons, Chris? Tell me.
It should be damn near impossible. I mean, you said the defense played well enough to win. The Vikings outgained Tampa 369 to 242. The Vikings were averaging 5.9 yards of play. The Buccaneers are averaging 3.6 yards of play. Tampa Bay went 6 out of 17 on 3rd down. And
wow!
Yeah,
wow!
You weren't seeing that last year with the passive Ed Donatel. We can't get there with 4, and we're not going to blitz anybody. Defense that they were running, and those defenders were all over the place. I mean, Ivan Pace was out there thumping on people, and Danielle Hunter was out there.
What about Metellus?
What he used to do.
Metellus
had a pretty solid game. I mean,
he let Evans get deep on that one play, but he made a bunch of good plays without it. You shouldn't lose when the other team is 6 for 17 on 3rd down.
No,
I mean, come on, man.
When they're not even averaging 4 yards of play. I mean, that's just it's bad. I mean,
I don't know what's wrong with I don't think Kevin O'Connell's a step on the throat kind of coach. I think he likes to keep it close because he has a gentleman's bet with the coach or something. I don't know what it is.
I don't know, and that's exactly the same damn thing we complained about with Mike Zimmer for the last few years that he was here. We would get a lead, and we would immediately go into let's see if we can grind the clock out, and then other teams would come back, and it would be close. And we bitched about that for 2 or 3 years under Mike Zimmer at the end there, and we thought that Kevin O'Connell was going to be different. And the more you bring it up, I'm not sure if he is.
I'm not sure either. When was the best time we were moving the ball against Tampa Bay today? When we were throwing the semi-long slants, the things over the middle, the seam routes, the long pass to Addison, and then they just get away from it. The Vikings aren't the Vikings unless they waste first down or second down on a run up the middle for -2. We saw that all last year. Let me ask you this question though. I know it's game 1 and everything, but did they miss Dalvin Cook in this game?
I'm not sure if they missed Dalvin Cook as much. I mean, I know that Alexander Madison is solid and whatnot, and I think a lot of the things that Cook was getting dinged for last year is he kind of fell into that later stage Adrian Peterson kind of productivity where it's like 0 yards, 1 yard, -2 yards, 0 yards, and it's getting stuffed frequently, and then ripping off a big gain so it doesn't look quite so bad. I mean, obviously the big gains would be nice, but you need someone that can consistently grind out those yards. I know Madison works his ass off. I understand that.
No, he runs hard.
He's a solid guy. He always seems to fall forward. That's fine, but they don't have that home run threat that Cook at least used to represent a little bit. But the interior offensive line of this team is still terrible.
Why is it terrible?
I mean,
why?
Garrett Bradbury went out like straight away. His back issues have flared up again. And like I said on social media, once you hurt your back, it never actually gets better. It just gets varying degrees of worse. And so that's probably something he's going to be dealing with all season. Darisaw went out for a while, so that's 40% of your starting offensive line. Ezra Cleveland, half the time, there was a screen pass that got blown up by Levante David that he just ran right past Cleveland. Cleveland didn't even get a piece of him. I mean, Ed Ingram is literally knocking the ball out of his quarterback's hands on 3rd and 1. We figured out the tackle situation, but the interior offensive line for this team is still just a mess.
We mentioned on our studio show when we prelimed this matchup between the Buccaneers and Vikings, we said Ted and I both agreed that the Buccaneers front 7 might be the difference. Mm-hmm. And they certainly made a difference, at least in the first half. The Vikings are playing right into their hand, Chris. They were. Mm-hmm. They should have boycotted their game plan and started stretching the field like they did on the few successful drives they had. But they stuck with it. They want to stick with that run for no gain and those 2-yard passes, and time just ran out on them. Too many mistakes. It's Tampa Bay adjusted their offense. We didn't adjust. And what about Cousins yelling at KOC at the end of the first half? What was that all about? Do you get any information? If somebody can say in the comments what was going on there, I'd like to hear about it. He was angry.
I honestly did. I didn't know if he was mad at him or if he was mad at Osborne, because that was right after the Osborne interception at the goal line that took what should have been 7 points off the board. Like I said at the beginning, I still don't know how the hell KJ Osborne didn't catch that football, but he didn't. But hey, Tedward is back.
Sorry,
Ted.
It's hard to get a signal down here with no Wi-Fi, but
since you keep cutting out, just talk. We want to hear just talk.
Go for it.
I heard you guys talking about that the interception at the end of the half the Vikings had, and we're talking with some folks down here. That just kind of seemed to be a backbreaker for the Vikings. And that was just, the Bucs played, the Buccaneers played to win, and the Vikings seemed to play not to lose today.
Right. They adjusted.
Absolutely.
They made adjustments on offense. Baker Mayfield looked like a different guy in the second half.
He did, yeah. He did.
I just O'Connell didn't, and I know O'Connell's not on the field, Ted, but still, he's got to take responsibility for some of this play calling. He's the play caller.
Yeah, the play calling all afternoon. I mean, the Vikings had outgained the Bucs by 200 yards at halftime, and they had 10 points to show for it. They just, if it wasn't for Justin Jefferson, this offense would have looked like the 2005 or 6 version of the Vikings offense with. Last days at Tice and the first year of Brad Childress under, with, guys like Brooks Ballins and all that at cornerback. It was just not fun to watch.
No. Terrible.
What do they do? How do they bounce back from this, Ted?
How do they bounce back from this? Is that your question?
Yeah. I don't know. We play like this next week, we're losing by 30.
Philly's going to be a quick turn and defending NFC champions. I mean, then they got the Chargers coming to town after that. I mean, you look at the Vikings schedule. This was a game. We talked about this. Yeah, this is like you don't talk about must-win games in week 1, but this kind of was, and now they're looking at, good God, 0-4, 0-5 maybe.
Well, remember are you still there, Ted?
Yeah, I'm here.
Remember we talked about on the studio show about the Tampa Bay front seven? Remember we talked that could be the difference of the game? They lit us up today. Yeah. They licked our tits today. They kicked our ass today.
Hey, what's Bradbury's injury status? I saw it. Did he come back in? Did they mention anything on that?
I don't think Bradbury came back in. I know Darrisaw was out for a bit and he came back in, but I don't think Bradbury came back. I think Schlotman played the rest of the game after he went out early. And like I said to Drew, apparently his back issues flare up again. And we're all old dudes, so we know that once you hurt your back never actually gets better. It just gets varying degrees of worse as you go along. So he's probably going to be dealing with that all year. So get used to starting center Austin Schlotman. I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Hey, Ted, let me ask you about the running game. 17 rushes for 41 yards. What do you think?
Terrible. Ty Chandler came in early in the first half, carried the ball 2 or 3 times, looked pretty elusive, dynamic, electric, whatever word it is you want to use. And then he got taken out, and I don't know that he saw the field again as a running back. I don't get it. It just seems Madison's okay. It was a great touchdown catch, don't get me wrong, but Madison is just not a guy that can flip the field like Dalvin Cook or maybe even Ty Chandler can. I don't know.
I think Chandler may be better. You can throw your hate mail at me, but I don't know.
So we'll see.
17 for 41 yards is not acceptable.
It's not good.
Nope.
It's got to be better.
Oh.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah. What do we have any positives we can take away from this one? And anything even remotely positive to it?
I got one thing to say that's positive. I like Chris Gates' post last week when he said, the only thing worse than Burning Man is being in a conversation with somebody about Burning Man. That's what I'm going to hang my hat on. That is some funny stuff. I don't know. What do you see today you like, Ted?
I like Justin Jefferson. I liked
except for second half when they only gave
the defense. I like Justin Jefferson. I like the defense. I kind of reminded me of last year in the second half. The offense went 3 and out. Defense got put back on the field, and as good as they had played, you're going to get tired and you're going to end up giving up yards and points, and that's exactly what happened last year. But I will say the defense played a lot more aggressively even towards the end of the game than they did at any point last year, I thought.
No, they absolutely did. I mean, there was a lot of the new guys that were out there getting it done. They didn't force any turnovers. Unfortunately, I was kind of hoping they would, but
I'm just irritated with the whole thing. This is a game they should have won and they didn't, and now it's going to be a hell of a tough schedule from here on out.
Let me say this real quick. The Vikings are a passing team. That's how they're going to beat people.
Yeah.
Kevin O'Connell wanted to stick with this weak screen game. They're not a screen team, Ted. They're not. No. The screen game is terrible. It's terrible, and he wanted to stick with it to waste downs on that. At some point in this game in the third quarter, he had to say, screw it. I'm going with my strong suit. I'm going with the wide receivers. I'm going with Cousins, and I'm going with Hawkinson. I'm going to throw the ball, and then we'll figure it out next week after we win. But he wanted to stick with that. Run up the middle. And come on.
When they stretched the field with Addison and Jefferson and Hawkinson, when they were using him on a tight end screen, that offense looked close to unstoppable.
Then why stop it? Why stop it?
And then they went away from it. I don't know. I wish I had the answer. I don't know.
If I told you that T.J. Hawkinson caught 8 passes today, how many receiving yards do you reckon he would have had?
100.
I would have had 75 or 80. How much did he end up having?
8 catches for 35 yards.
Absolutely
That's
terrible.
4 yards a catch, for Christ's sake.
Well, you know what? He's getting set in these screens. That's not his call.
No, it's not. I mean, like I said, he had at least a couple receptions today that lost yardage. Tight ends shouldn't lose yardage on
Those
receptions. That just shouldn't happen.
whether it's Ham or Hawkinson or whatever, guys, that 2-yard pass isn't helping, Ted. It's not. Get rid of it. Stop doing it.
You don't make that guy the highest paid tight end in the NFL so that he can go out and catch 2-yard screen passes. That's ridiculous. Because just now you're going to have the highest paid tight end in the league, and pretty soon you're going to have the highest paid wide receiver in the league because Jefferson can just slide a blank check over to Ziggy Wilf and say, here, Phil, or Ziggy Wilf can just slide a blank check over to Justin Jefferson's agent and say, here, fill in a number for me.
Sure.
And he's going to get whatever he wants from the Vikings, and he should because he's way better than everyone. But it was if you watch the history of the Vikings that this came out like the 7-part video or whatever. We all remember when the Vikings brought Herschel Walker in, and they tried to make Herschel Walker into the kind of a running back that he's not, like trying to run him outside all the time. They have all these weapons like Jefferson and Hawkinson and Addison and all these other folks, and they're trying to force them into the kind of offensive scheme that just isn't going to work when you have those kinds of players.
They're trying to force. They think they have the ability and the talent of Cook in the backfield. Play action's a lot different with Cook than it is with Madison. It is. Teams aren't, especially Tampa Bay has a bunch of veterans, man. They know that he's no threat to them. So the play action pass. Let me ask you something. Do the Vikings have any plays in their playbook, where they have Kirk getting out of the pocket? Anything?
I saw at least one. They rolled him out and he found Josh Oliver for a fairly long play, but then they stopped doing those too.
Why do they?
I don't understand.
Why do they stop with what works? Why do they stop with what works?
Kirk Cousins' two biggest strengths are the play action game and the rollouts and bootlegs and whatever. And like you said, we don't see those as often as we need to with this team anymore. And we criticized the previous regimes. That was all they did. They rolled Cousins out. They gave him half the field, and he's successful with it. They did it all the time, and this regime doesn't seem to do it at all. But like you said, until one of the Vikings running backs, whether it's Madison or Chandler or whoever it might be, establishes themselves as the sort of big-time threat that Cook had established himself as, whether he still was or not by the time he left Minnesota or whatever, until they can prove that they're that sort of threat, nobody's going to be scared of the play action for Minnesota.
I'll throw two things at you. Even when we lost with Cook, he had a couple times during the game where you get a 25, 30-yard screen. He would run the ball for a big chunk gain. He always did that. Win or lose, he would have a couple plays where he had big chunk yardage. And you know what that does, Chris? Mm-hmm. That makes the defense think about him. That makes the defense wary of what Cook can do to you if you let him get it out in the flat, get it in open space. He can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
That's gone. And I know a lot of people are commenting now, wouldn't have mattered if Cook was in there today. I don't know.
I think it would have hurt.
I think the defensive coordinators, it's a lot different preparing for Alexander Madison than Cook. I'm just saying. I'm not saying I want him back. We're at the committee. I'd like to see it work out maybe in week 2, week 3, week 4, but I don't know about the running game. I don't know if we have the guy that pound people, Chris.
No, at this point, I'm not sure if we do either. Like we said, Madison runs hard. He always seems to fall forward, that sort of thing. He doesn't go down on first contact, that sort of thing. But he just doesn't have, people aren't scared when they see Alexander Madison or Ty Chandler lining up in the backfield next to Kirk Cousins because they haven't established themselves as anybody to be scared of.
And that was our game. That was a big part of the Vikings game.
It really was.
The last few years. I mean, Madison doesn't see the running lanes very well. I think Chandler sees them better. Chandler has better vision than Madison misses a lot of holes.
That's not what she said. That's
no, man. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't behind the line. He almost like he doesn't. I don't know. I'm not ripping on Matty. He's a good running back, but he's not the top dog. He's not Cook.
No.
He's not. And so why not throw that game plan out the window in the third quarter and say, okay, here's the important thing. We have to win this game. Regardless of what happens in the future, we can work with Cook. We can work with Chandler, Kirk, everything. We can work on the running game. That's fine in the future. Right now, we need to win this fucking game, and we need to go to the air to do it. And they should have done that, and they didn't do it. They stuck with that bullshit 2-yard Hawkinson screen.
Yep.
We're behind the sticks all day, Chris. All day.
Absolutely.
2nd and 15, 2nd and 12, all that shit you've seen in the past.
Stupid penalties didn't help. I mean, the Vikings got flagged 6 times for 45 yards, but they came at pretty terrible times. I mean, there was the play right after the 2-minute warning. It was like 3rd and 7 for Tampa Bay, and Patrick Jones jumps offside to give them a 3rd and 2, and they turned that into the touchdown that made it a tie game at the half. The Jay Ward penalty, like you said, was 4 extra points for Tampa because he lined up offsides on the field goal attempt.
What a dope.
I know 6 penalties is not generally considered a lot of penalties, but they come at the dumbest possible times, and that'll kill you every single time. I mean,
it's a great point.
And Tampa Bay was only penalized 3 times in this one, and one of them was on the pass interference just before the Madison touchdown. So that's like a 2-yard penalty. I mean, it came on 3rd down, so it gave the Vikings an opportunity to get the ball in the end zone. But but like you always say on the show, Drew, it comes down to that crucial handful of plays: who makes the mistakes, who doesn't make the mistakes, and the Vikings, between 3 turnovers and everything else, they made the most mistakes and the worst mistakes, and this is not the way this game should have turned out.
Exactly right. Very well said. It's just it's a bummer because not only you lost the Bud Grant game, but it would be nice to be sitting here talking about the defense making a difference in a win. And it's the offense. I don't know. It's a head scratcher. People ask me, what are they doing? They have this great drive where they got, slants and this, and they run a draw and a good screen with blocking out front. They get it all down there. And then the next drive, when they went up 10-3, I think Tampa kicked it, punted to us. And I'm thinking, there are moments in NFL games when you can send somebody out, when you could give them the knockout blow on the ropes, Chris. And Minnesota went up 10-3. They held Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay kicked, and Minnesota had this awful 3-and-out.
Yeah, that was the drive. That was the drive that we talked about earlier with the let's see here. Yeah, that was the one where they had the pass to KJ Osborne that came up 6 inches short because after the Bucs up 10-3, the Bucs went 3-and-out. They had a 5-yard run and then a couple of incompletions. They punted it away, and then the Vikings had that drive that came up 6 inches short on the pass to Osborne, and then after that we get into the Tampa's next possession. They had a run for a loss. Another run for 4 yards. So they were looking at 3rd and 7 coming out of the 2-minute warning, and that's where the Patrick Jones neutral zone infraction penalty came, and that turned a 3rd and 7 into a 3rd and 2. And from there, the Bucs just marched down the field. They had a pass to Godwin for 14, a pass to Evans for 9, a 2-yard run, and then the 28-yard touchdown to Mike Evans. So like that, I don't know if that offsides penalty from Patrick Jones was the thing that made it possible for them to put that touchdown drive together. I don't know what the play call would have been on 3rd and 7 or anything, but yeah.
They were beating us with the front 7 controlling that middle zone. That's what Tampa Bay did. We're going to put 8-10 guys up there. You're going to have to beat us deep, which the Vikings did with Addison. Like you said earlier in the show, he was wide open. That's college football wide open.
He was.
That's the weak spot. That's the weak spot of Tampa Bay. You got to hit them with that the whole rest of the game. Don't stick to the game. Go with every game plan's different, Chris. They some of those passes Jefferson caught, you watch the replay, he's 20 yards open. Nobody's around him. But we don't want to do that. We want to go back to these fancy screens that never – why? Just
No.
That may work against Philly, but why do it today? You got to do what you can to win the game. Do whatever it takes to win the game. Whether you got to throw deep 9 times in a row, whatever. I don't get the Vikings thought process. Kevin O'Connell is vanilla, and he's not aggressive, and I don't like it. I don't like getting down inside the 10-yard line and handing it off to Madison for -2. Why would you even do that when everybody on the planet knows you're going to hand off again? Why keep doing it? Don't do it.
I think Kevin O'Connell kind of falls into the trap that a lot of offensive coordinators seem to fall into, where they don't want to be the straightforward and whatever things like that. An example of that, if you watch the Thursday night game between the Chiefs and the Lions, I think it was the Chiefs. It was either their last offensive possession or the second to last offensive possession. They had like 3rd and about like a foot to go. And instead of just handing it off and running the ball straight forward and gaining 6 or 12 inches or whatever it was you needed, they've got people going in motion. They've got their backup tight end taking a snap from center and running an option with it. Get the damn first down, move the chains, get a fresh set. Why do you got to be so cute and so stupid with some of these play calls all the time? I mean, just like you said, just do what works. There was stuff that was working and they stopped doing it. And I don't understand why.
Why is that right there? They have stuff that was working and they stopped doing it. Why is that? And by the way, let's give a shout out to all the people that are joining the show tonight.
Absolutely.
Great
After
question.
a game like this is but I don't know why they do it, to be honest. I mean, like we said, we have a wide receiver that's once again, I don't know how many times after one half of football since he joined the team that Justin Jefferson has been on pace to break the single game receiving record for the Minnesota Vikings. And then in the second half, he has like 15 yards because they just stopped throwing the football to him. It happened when Zimmer was here, and now it's happening under O'Connell as well. I mean, Justin Jefferson was on pace to have like 280 receiving yards after the first half, and he finished with 150. Every game this team plays without giving that guy an extension, his price tag goes up.
Yeah,
especially days like today.
If you keep going to JJ today instead of throwing these passes to Ham, you win the game. You win the game, especially when you get down there in the red zone. I'm thinking red zone, they got, they didn't do so well. 1 for 3 in the red zone today, which is not really Kirk Cousins'
acceptable
numbers. But
no.
The Vikings have a better offense than to be going 3 and out that many times. Not only 3 and out, Chris, awful plays. And I'm
bad 3 and outs.
You get a first down and another first down, and you got a punt. That's one thing. You get a first down, you got a punt. That all happens. That's all football. But when you have this good of a team offensively, there's no reason to go 3 and out with 3 crappy plays and without penalties. If you get a holding penalty, that's one thing, but they waste a lot of downs. They waste a lot of downs, and it came back to bite them in the ass today. Last year, we'd probably win this game, Chris.
Yep, and their last 2 possessions, I know Sal mentioned it when we went to Ted earlier. So after it was 17-17,
right?
And the Buccaneers punted it away. There was 11 minutes left in the game. So after the Vikings got the ball there, let's see the sequence of plays. There was one pass to Hawkinson for -3, pass to Osborne for 6, incomplete pass, punt. Buccaneers go down, get the 57-yard field goal, and credit to Chase McLaughlin, former Vikings practice squad legend, for drilling that field goal, because that thing would have been good from another 10 yards out.
I was saying that's a 70-yarder, man.
Yeah, so McLaughlin hits that one to make it 20-17, and the Vikings' next possession, they outdid themselves on the first one by hitting Hawkinson for -4 this time rather than -3, and then to Jefferson for 7, incomplete pass to Addison, and then they punted it away, and they never got the football back. So your last 2 possessions, you managed to gain a total of like 6 yards in 2 drives. That for an offense that just an offense that has Justin Jefferson on it, let alone the other weapons this offense has, that is completely unacceptable.
It is unacceptable. And I remember watching with Toonces, Chris, and I said, I think we should go for it because I don't think we're going to get it back. and we
No.
didn't get it back. But Tampa 3rd and 10 with everything on the line. They throw a 12-yard square out. I don't think KOC's calling that. I don't.
No, I don't
And
think he is either.
That's the nutsack you got to have in this league. That's the ball bag you got to carry, Chris.
Absolutely.
We play everything close to the bet. Stop doing that. Let it go. You got all these players, and come on. I'm laying that on KOC. The defense played well enough to win, and Shane Lind had a good point here when he wrote down the bottom here. Good news is it's a short week, Chris. Bad news is we're going to Philly. So Shane Lind, you're exactly that's how I feel about it.
I've got a funny feeling this game on Thursday night is going to get ugly fast. I mean, I've got the Red Zone channel on here. I've got everything muted. There's 30 seconds left in the first quarter. The Eagles are already up 16-0. They had a pick six. I'm not sure how they got their other score. I think they might have missed an extra point. I think that's like the only thing that's gone wrong for them in the first quarter here. But you can have games like the Vikings had today against a team like Tampa Bay and still keep things close. Like you said before, you have this kind of game against the Eagles, you're losing by 40 on national television, and it's going to be just bad.
You got the rule is for football, and you've heard it 1,000 times, being you are the King Kahuna over there at the Daily Norseman, Chris. You have to win the games that you're supposed to win. At home, Tampa Bay is not that good of a team, Chris. No. They're not. They're not that good of a team. They're going to win about 5 games this year. You have to win that game. And we can go down the schedule and say there's a have to win here, a have to win here. Now we have to win a game where we didn't think we would win.
No. I mean, whether it's Philly next week, I mean, I don't see that happening. I mean, the Chiefs come to town in about 3 or 4 weeks. And, this was one that this team needed to have, and they don't have it, especially after they sat there and watched Detroit go into Kansas City and knock off the defending Super Bowl champions. So now you're already a game down in the division. You're going to be stuck there at the bottom with either Green Bay or Chicago, whoever loses the game they're playing this afternoon. So you're behind the 8 ball already. Like you said, the schedule going forward, they've got Philly next week. It's the Chargers after that. Trip to Carolina before Kansas City comes to town. Chicago, where it seems like they never win ever unless something weird happens. The reasons for optimism are much fewer now than I think they were about 4 or 5 hours ago.
You know what? I'm haven't lost hope because the defense looks a lot better. I thought the defense would take 4 or 5 games to get in set. They're set now. They know their responsibilities. You can see the adjustments they make during a play. The wing, flap the wings. They know what they're doing. Everybody knows Ivan Pace, all that. And I was blown away at how well they were playing in this game. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about this offense, like I've said on Vikings Report the last 2 months. Too vanilla. It's too wuss. You got to come out and go for it. And I don't know if KOC's the guy for that. I don't know. I don't. He's good at giving speeches after a win in the last seconds, but look at that offense today. Tampa Bay, we should have scored 35 points today on Tampa Bay. We should have. And the red zone offense, it seems like he grabs another playbook. Get rid of that one. I want this one. Up the middle, whatever. And you know what?
Yeah.
Stay aggressive and you win, because predictability is vulnerable. That's when you're vulnerable most. And Tampa Bay took advantage of it.
And we've seen that. I've seen a couple of people mention him in the comments, but it's like a 180 from what we saw last season, because we saw the Ed Donatel defense last season, and every week it was like, we're only going to rush 4 guys, and we're going to hang all these guys back into coverage, and they're not equipped for the scheme that we're playing, and we're just going to go and just be passive and whatever. And the offense seemed like there were times where they were aggressive and wanting to push things or whatever. Things have been a complete 180 this year. And I know Brian Flores has been mentioned a lot. And, like damn near every defensive play today, we saw 7 or 8 guys up on the line of scrimmage, dudes faking blitzes, things. And now the offense has kind of, gone back into a shell. And Brian Flores needs to talk to Kevin O'Connell about, I don't know if the aggression factor would translate from offense to defense. And I don't think we can put it on Kirk Cousins, because Cousins is letting it rip when it's there. But I mean, if you're calling stupid 2-yard screen passes all the time, what the hell is he supposed to do? I mean, he can't make the offensive line block. He can't make TJ Hawkinson avoid tackles or whatever.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to do. I mean, Cousins has shown that when he's asked to push the football downfield, he's more than capable of doing it. And we just stopped doing it for reasons that I don't quite get.
One thing that gets me, Chris, is last year he was like pressured more than any quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And would continue with it week 1.
Yep.
Showing, to me, no improvement. Even the passes he completed, you had guys in his face. When are they going to figure out that they need to keep people off Kirk, because he's not Mahomes? He's not Jalen Hurts. He's not whatever that cat's name is in Buffalo. He's not.
No.
I said this to Toonces during the game when he made a couple passes. I said to her, when you give that guy time, he is an accurate quarterback. He's as accurate as anybody out there. So why can't they figure out we need to keep people off his ass? Because if we do, good things will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Good things will happen. He's capable of moving a team and scoring all the time. I think it's a play calling that's killing him.
I think that's a big part of it. And we've talked about it. Like we said, the Vikings have figured out the offensive line at the tackle spots, because Darisaw and Brian O'Neill are both really, really good. They're among the best tackles in the league. But the interior offensive line, they've tried I don't know how many different centers. They've tried whatever guard solutions are out there. But when you have dudes like Ed Ingram who are like actively knocking the ball out of your quarterback's hands on a 3rd and 1, I mean, like, why are you even swinging your arm toward the quarterback at that point? I mean, what the hell are you doing out there? And Bradbury, like we said, he's got back issues. He's always going to have back issues now. That's the thing. Whether if they signed him to that short-term extension, they can probably get out of it with minimal damage at the end of the season or whatever. But his back is not going to get better. Ezra Cleveland is up and down all the time. I don't know. The interior
you can do better. You can do better. You can do better than Ezra Cleveland. You can.
I doubt it.
You can find somebody that's better than that guy. I'm really happy with the defense, the players, the scheme. I think it's really dejecting to the defense to lose this game. I mean, it is. I mean, the defense is making improvements, but I don't get this offense. What's a strong point to the Vikings since Cook left? It's the passing attack. Mm-hmm. It's almost like KOC feels like, we can't use the passing attack too much. We have to go back to the run to keep ourselves balanced. You know what, dude? Balance is out the window in the NFL. You got to go with what is going to win you the game. Every game is different. The Vikings should have just kept that air attack. JJ's open by 20 yards. Look what he did in the first half. But he wants to stick with his game plan. We're going to do up the middle, whatever. And is he going to learn? Is he going to learn to adjust? Because he might have to do it next Thursday, Chris. He might not.
The run game damn sure isn't going to work in Philadelphia, I don't think, with that defensive front that they have. I mean, but you said that the best coaches make the adjustments that they need to make, and we've seen teams do that to the Vikings time and time again, and the Vikings just don't. Whether it's the coaches or whether it's the personnel or whatever, they just don't seem to have that ability or that willingness or whatever the case may be to crank up the aggression to where it needs to be on the offensive side of the ball.
You know what, Chris? Is it just me with the aggressive offense, with the attacking offense? Is it just me? Do you not feel that way, or am I off on that?
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, like you said, we've seen these terrible play calls, the tight end screens, the other team has Vita Vea, 350-pound, just freaking monster in the middle of the defensive line. Let's keep slamming the ball into that guy over and over and see what happens. Nothing good is going to happen if you do that, because that dude is a I mean, he's basically what Pat Williams used to be. You can't move the guy, and he's going to single-handedly kill your running game. So you got to do something different, and they've just decided not to do anything different.
I'm really worried that KOC has this game plan mentality where I'm going to stick to it the whole game. I'm going to stick to it the whole game, whether it works or not. This is what I'm going to do. Look what Tampa Bay did with Baker Mayfield in the second half with all those 3-step drops. They realized the 7-step drops, it's not going to work. He was waiting for the routes to get open, and then he realized they're not getting open. Let's throw it quick with no pressure. And it worked for him. That was a great adjustment by Tampa Bay and their coaching staff. And you know what? Tampa Bay took advantage where they needed to today, and they won the game. But
they did.
I don't think they're a better team than the Vikings. I think the Vikings let that one get away, and now they're going to have to regroup and go into Philly and pull that game out. They're going to have to win this game in Philly because I had them at 1-1 after 2 weeks. So they're going to have to figure out a way to, and a lot of times when teams make a bunch of turnovers, the next game they're playing really well. So I guess I could hope for that. But, disappointing to see this kind of turnout for game one. I mean, come on.
It really is.
I can't explain the offense, Chris. Can you?
No, I mean, we've been trying for damn near an hour now, and I don't think either of us have even come close to trying to figure out exactly what the hell is wrong with this offense. I mean, they like we said, they have things that work, and they do the things that work for a while, and then they stop doing the things that work, and they go to the stuff that you just keep slamming your head into a wall, and it doesn't work. It's not what you need to be doing. You need to open things up and get aggressive, and you're just not doing it.
It's like being in a band. You play a Nugent song, Iron Maiden song, and they all rock. And then you follow it up with an Enya song. You know what I mean? There's a connection there. Nobody wants to hear Enya at a nightclub. They don't. Keep up with the Maiden. Keep up with the Black Sabbath. Keep up with the rock and roll. Don't mix in any Enya or Hall & Oates or none of that shit.
They don't want to hear Air Supply. Okay, they just didn't know.
And you got some games where your run game's going to work really well. And you could use that in conjunction with the clock to control the game with your run game. I think the Vikings should abandon the run game in the third quarter, Chris. I think they should
absolutely
just started throwing it.
No, I mean, like you said, when you have the sort of weapons that the Vikings have in the passing game between Jefferson, Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, the 2-yard screen game pass should not be a constant thing for this team. It just shouldn't be.
Hawkinson's strong point is down the field 10 yards on the square out and then see if he gets any yak yards. That's what he's good at.
That's what you're paying him for.
Unbelievable. I don't know.
All right.
I think the Vikings still have a good team and they can bounce back, but this was a bad loss for them.
I would have to agree. I think Ruby is trying to get the hook here. We've been at it for almost an hour. So Ruby Toonces, are you back there ready to spin the wheel of destiny?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Chris, thanks for doing the hosting duties tonight. I appreciate it.
I've tried. I'm not Deadward or anything, but
Let's do the wheel. Let's do the wheel.
All right, here we go.
Who's our winner?
Anthony Tollison.
Anthony Tollison. Big winner
All
tonight.
Right. I think Anthony is a previous winner. He knows how this works. You get in touch with Ruby at the world's longest email address, Vikings Report with Crew and Ted at gmail.com, or Ruby will get in contact with you somehow. But get in contact with Toonces. They will open up the prize vault and let you pick whichever of the goodies strikes your fancy in there. So, Drew, you got any final thoughts on this one?
Bad game. We didn't win. I'm pissed. But you know what? This is a long season. We got a lot to look forward to. This team's better defensively, Chris. And that if we're not better defensively, we have no shot. So at least clean up the mistakes, and let's see where we're at from there. I appreciate you doing the hosting tonight since we lost Ted early.
Yep.
But I'm ready to rock for next week. Do you think we could beat Philly? And
I mean,
secondly, are you going to be with us after postgame and postgame?
Yes.
Okay.
So I assume no studio show for you guys this week with the quick turnaround.
No, we are doing a studio show.
Oh,
we're doing a studio show we're going to release it Wednesday. That's a good segue into what I got to go over real quick.
Nice.
The Rook Dog Challenge.
You lay out the schedule. You lay out the schedule for everything y'all are doing. So you go ahead.
Rook Dog Challenge. We started late getting that game together, so we are leaving that open until Sunday the 17th. Then it will shut down. All the picks have to be in by then. So if you haven't signed up for the Rook Dog Challenge, which is a free entry, sign up now. Rookie of the Year on offense, Rookie of the Year on defense. Put it in the comments below. You will have this week with our studio show. It's going to be an abbreviated studio show, Chris. No faces, no movie.
Yeah.
We're just going to talk Eagles to make sure we get the show out. And also, no one cares about your fantasy team, which is our weekly contest we started this week, naturally, since it's week 1. Those picks are due by every Sunday when the morning game comes out. Then we shut it down. So you can't wait till the games are over and then pick which team you like for family. Pretty obvious. But those are the two things we have going right now. We do have a studio show coming out early, like I said, Wednesday or so. And tune in. It'll still be fun. We're going to do the big board.
Nice. So, next week, so as Drew said, studio show for him and Ted on Wednesday. Then we have the Thursday night game with Philly, the live post-game show after that. So we will, I'm sure that's, if it goes the way I think we all think it's going to go, it's going to be more of a venting session than an actual post-game kind of wrap-up sort of thing. But
we're going to win, Gates.
Well, stranger things have happened. We'll see how this goes. But hopefully Ted will be back next week in front of his computer and not gallivanting about the countryside, hanging out at tailgate parties and doing whatever, shirking his responsibilities as host, basically.
That's right.
I was happy to at least try to cover for Ted this week, but
dude, you did a great job. Great job.
Hopefully Ted will be back with us next week, somewhere where he's actually sitting in front of his computer and whatnot, and we'll see how that goes. But for Drew and for Toonces, who you cannot see at the moment because she's working the magic behind the scenes, and on behalf of Ted out at US Bank Stadium, thanks to everyone for coming in and joining us this afternoon, and we will see you on Thursday night.
Say good night, Chris.
Good night, Chris.